Tuesday of the 12th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of Genesis. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support them if they stayed together. Their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. There were quarrels between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and those of Lot's. At this time the Canaanites and the Perizzites were occupying the land. So Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, or between your herdsmen and mine, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land at your disposal? Please separate from me. If you prefer the left, I will go to the right. If you prefer the right, I will go to the left." Lot looked about and saw how well watered the whole Jordan plain was as far as Zoar, like the Lord's own garden, or like Egypt. This was before the Lord had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot, therefore, chose for himself the whole Jordan plain and set out eastward. Thus they separated from each other. Abram stayed in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the plain, pitching his tents near Sodom. Now the inhabitants of Sodom were very wicked in the sins they committed against the Lord. After Lot had left, the Lord said to Abram, "Look about you, and from where you are, gaze to the north and south, east and west. All the land that you see I will give to you, and your descendants forever. I will make your descendants like the dust of the earth. If anyone could count the dust of the earth, your descendants too might be counted. Set forth and walk about in the land, through its length and breadth, for to you I will give it." Abram moved his tents and went on to settle near the terebinth of Mamre, which is at Hebron. There he built an altar to the Lord. The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "He who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord." He who walks blamelessly and does justice, who thinks the truth in his heart and slanders not with his tongue. He who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord. Who harms not his fellow man, nor takes up a reproach against his neighbor, by whom the reprobate is despised, while he honors those who fear the Lord. He who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord. Who lends not his money at usury, and accepts no bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be disturbed. He who does justice will live in the presence of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, or throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and turn and tear you to pieces. Do to others whatever you would have them do to you. This is the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road broad that leads to destruction, and those who enter through it are many. How narrow the gate and constricted the road that leads to life, and those who find it are few." The Gospel of the Lord.
Tuesday of the 12th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Genesis 13, verse 2, and verses 5 to 18. We hear that Abram was very rich, and in fact his flocks and those of Lot had multiplied, and there's a danger that the herdsmen of these two flocks would fight among themselves for pasturage, for water, so they decide to go their separate ways. Now Abram, who's the patriarch, should be able to choose where he wants to go, but he lets Lot do that. And Lot, who's a bit selfish, chooses the best territory for himself. Now, ironically, the best territory is the land that's around the 5 cities, those cities that will be destroyed because of their decadence, including Sodom and Gomorrah. Because we see the goodness of Abram, the generosity of Abram, he will be blessed. And God tells him his descendants will be like the dust of the earth. Later on, also hear that they'll be like the stars in the sky, the sand on the shore of the sea. Abram will have many descendants. And we hear that he dwelt near the terebinth of Mamre, which is in Hebron. Now, a terebinth is a large oak tree. Remember, this is a desert land, so there weren't many trees around. So large trees became a landmark, a place that you could point out to say that this is where Abram lived. The Gospel is Matthew 7, verse 6, and then 12 to 14. This is a series of 3 sayings. Don't give what's holy to the dogs, or cast your pearls before swine. Now, both swine and dogs were considered unclean animals. Swine because their hoofs were not split. And remember, in order to be able to eat an animal, it had to chew its cud and have a split hoof. And dogs were also considered unclean animals because they ate carrion. Don't place what's holy before those who will abuse it. It doesn't mean we should think of ourselves as holy and totally separate ourselves from others, but we should be careful when we share the good news. We should be careful what we say to others, because sometimes they don't have the ability to deal with it. They might share the secrets that we've told only to them. Do to others what you would have them do to you. This is what we call the Golden Rule. This is found in many religions all throughout the Mideast and even the Far East. In Buddhism, in Judaism, in Islam, that same idea. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate to perdition is wide and broad. It's easy to do the wrong thing. We're so weak, it's so easy to fall into temptation. We should enter through the narrow gate. We should try to be that which God has called us to be, even if it costs us. And may God bless us.